Plenty of criticism about the way black economic empowerment deals have been structured and whether or not the deals that are coming to fruition now are sustainable. We're seeing a lot of restructuring, which means that many of the deals consummated 10, 12, 15 years ago have ended up being just a little bit messy. Often banks and other funders have made really good money out of these deals, the advisors too, and the experts. And on occasion, BE participants have also made some decent money when share prices ran and dividend flows continued. But there has been a bit of an unwind of some of these programs. Often as the funding was unsustainable and BE deals had to be restructured repeatedly in order for companies to retain their BE credentials. And there's a big fight in the resources sector precisely on that. Is it all once empowered, always empowered, or do you have to keep refreshing your deals? Complicated stuff and stuff that is pivotal for the future of the country. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield, and tonight we're talking about our approach to sustainable, broad-based black economic empowerment. Sustainable broadbased. So it's SBBBEEBBEE. You understand? We've got a new acronym, which is good. Joining me for the discussion, Morgan Jones, corporate finance principal and BE expert at Bravura and Andile Tlhoaele, who is principal and senior consultant at Inforcomm. I'm going to suggest to you that, who should I start off with? I think I'll start off with Morgan. That it's the BE experts who got us into this mess in the first place, Morgan, and now it's the BE experts who are going to have to dig us out.
I think this situation has been created by an evolving policy framework. I mean, there's a clear macro intent behind what BE has been seeking to achieve.
And the reason the policy framework is evolving is because BE hasn't worked. It hasn't delivered the sort of transformation that the architects had hoped it would.
That's right. And we looked at the time at the initial instigation of the BE framework to other global circumstances, examples of where this sort of policy had been put in place to redress issues created by historic legacy issues. And none of those themselves have proved to be perfect. So indeed, it was an important endeavour. It was an important initiative. It was important that it gained traction. That traction, as you say, Bruce, has been perhaps less than a number of stakeholders would wish to see being the case, and therefore that process of policy implication, initiative, the drive to ensure that the incentives are promulgated throughout the environment has continued to be a part of the policy discussion.
As far as the initial BE deals are done, let's go to the days of Tokyo and Popo Molefe and to Cyril and to everybody else who did those early deals. How successful, to your mind, have they been?
I think, Bruce, to answer the question, you have to ask how successful has the economy been? Because the actual principles have not changed in terms of what BE set out to be. But it's the implementation aspect, especially when you implement BE around an evolving economy where the market goes up and down. So if you talk about success, I say some have been successful, some have not. But at the end, everybody agrees that the banks have actually made more money. And if you look at the real impact of what wanted to be achieved, so far has not been achieved.
Now, is that a fault of badly structured BE deals or the fault of an economy?
I think it's a mixture of both. Mm-hmm. Badly from a BE point of view, if you have rules that are too tight and rigid that don't allow the flexibility of the markets to literally swift left and right.
If you provided flexibility, people would have dodged and ducked and dived and wouldn't have fulfilled their obligations.
But the principles must be there. So all you have to do, you say, these are the principles, but I'm allowing a market framework that allows conditions, depending on where they are, to be able to meet those issues.
So we should rather have taken a King 3-4 a corporate governance sort of standpoint in terms of principles-based rather than rules-based approach to BE.
Yes. I think if you look at where we're going as a country, definitely. Otherwise, every time there will be an issue, BE does not work, we're going to try and change an issue right now through the amended codes. 3 years down the line, what we are changing is obsolete.
And amend the amended codes.
Exactly, and we just move on like that.
I mean, Morgan, is the principles-based approach the way to go?
I definitely think, underpinning the whole construct is a spirit. There are principles around what it's seeking to achieve, and I think a more principle-driven approach can offer the flexibility that Andile is talking about, and that can be important.
But that makes it impossible for the DTI then to pull rank and to say it's not working, we're pulling rank on this, and they want control of the process. Is that what you see? Yeah,
look, you talk about spirit. So the first ones were done on spirit, good faith. Now it's actually to say, people that are doing BE, they literally say, what's the shortest route, what's the best route for me to comply. In fact, if you look at the transactions now that are being announced, are not even being announced by companies who are saying we are proud to do this. They're actually saying this is how we've dodged, this is how we've actually found the minimum way of doing BEE, and that is becoming an acceptable norm. That's why I'm saying you have to move into a principles approach. I'm not a stick person because markets don't like stick. I'm a more of rather incentivize and put certain principles for companies to do BEE the right way.
I mean, why is it, Morgan, maybe you can answer this question, that companies have chosen to duck and dive rather than oblige?
Well, I think that's a broad statement in terms of how people have approached it. I think there's a broad spectrum of how people have engaged with the legislation. I think one of the key things that people have struggled with is how to balance the requirements with what it is that they seek to achieve as a business, to grow, to create profit, to generate value, which ultimately underpins the ability to transfer that value. And therefore, a sense of somewhat uncertainty, a lack of clarity in terms of how to best meet the principles and the legislation perhaps has led people to hedge their bets to some extent or looked for alternatives that can be seen to be being compliant.
Without fail, every single chief executive I spoke to in the very drawn out and boring process of these BEE deals, they were very exciting in the beginning and then they became a cookie cutter process. Everyone I spoke to went, this is the right thing to do for the future of South Africa, and it makes business sense. Universally, they were lying because they didn't believe what they were saying.
Yes, they should have said it makes business sense, then it's the right thing to do. Because then the minute you close the door in the boardroom, you first look at how is this going to impact our business. What we see, a lot of companies that are successful in doing that, they link BEE into their performance. In other words, BEE, they use BEE to drive strategy. And most of those guys are literally smiling because they structure deals in such a way that they actually claim more points using one indicator, and they can showcase and say, this is we are proud in doing the way we've structured our deal.
Who's done it best? Who has done to date BEE best?
Well, I think personally, I never want to go to specific entities, but I like to deal with principles.
But I know the principles fine, but they're kind of dull. Who has done it really well? I mean, there could be a bunch of people who've done it really well, but name me one.
Well, look, some of them are my clients, so I can't disclose them. So I don't want to look at the principles. The people that have done, let me tell you what they've done. They've made money.
Who has done well?
They've made money. They've made profitable, and the black shareholders are really benefited, and they're driving the company, so the impact you can see.
Okay, but who?
So, I mean, I think you talked about the earlier transactions, and I think the ones, to Andile's point to some extent, would be those that have performed well because the underlying corporate has performed well. So I think a number of the names in the financial sector have been particularly value and creative.
Sanlam has done well, Patrice has done well, and Patrice is now leveraging the opportunity Sanlam has given him, is hide the guys from Sanlam, to embark on true economic growth. It doesn't even have to be black economic empowerment anymore, it's economic empowerment.
That's right.
And that's one incredible example of real success. Why did that work where others failed? I mean, Sanlam went through a growth phase and continued to grow, so sensibly run, well-run business, but it wasn't distracted by a lot of the noise around BEE that other companies seem to be encumbered by.
Yeah, because actually I didn't want to mention Patrice because everybody's bang, and that's actually one of the best for me. And what he has done, he's literally leverage on, he's bringing the partners into Sanlam and in growing the business. And I mean, at the literally low level, I've seen Sanlam product basically being sold into environment where ordinarily you wouldn't think. And I could say this is as a result
It was the only deal where he bussed people in from all over South Africa. I think it was at the Sandton Convention Centre. We had people arriving in Joburg on buses going, we're not sure what we're doing here, but we've been asked to come and we're part of this deal. That's awesome. We're part of the economy. Thank you very much.
So just a simple example. My aunt goes to a ZCC church. She literally gets $60 from me, and that goes through Sanlam. Ordinarily, I wouldn't. And I can link that directly to Patrice's deal. And what Patrice has done, to be smartly, in BE, it's not necessarily about you as the black partner or investor doing something, but he has partnered. That's why he's hired the Sanlam guys to drive the economic empowerment. So for me, those were one of the...
So that's a great case study. Do we need to repeat the Sanlam Patrice model, or have we evolved beyond what happened then?
I think some of the characteristics around that transaction are quite critical in terms of what underpins good BE transactions: partnership, alignment, working together, and understanding of mutual value. I think no doubt that Sanlam was an exceptionally well-run business that continued to grow, that benefited over time from its market position, etc. Wasn't in a cyclical industry in the same way that some of our large mining corporates
and the mining
are.
guys have been caught short terribly, and through no fault, in many cases, through no fault of their own.
But where you've got share prices being impacted by global commodity cycles, etc., and that all comes off, and the profitability comes off, and then that threatens the funding, we're back to the unsustainability of the traditional structure. So there's certain characteristics for me around a good BE partnership. Whether the traditional bank-funded, highly leveraged structures are necessarily the right way forward, given case in point the current economic situation we find ourselves in here, we want these things to be sustainable into the future through the cycle.
But to your point about principles-based approach, Andile, rather than a rules-based approach, through a negative cycle in the commodity space, you could extend the period of the transaction. You could be a lot more malleable when it came to actually delivering value on a mining deal, for example.
Exactly, and those principles must include the characteristics. One of them, which is you need a partner that can add value. All the things that you've mentioned, Morgan, needs to be part of those principle-based. I mean, if you look at the ARM deal, it was so good that they were able...
Oh, look, there's another Patrice deal, yes.
Yes. No, but the market changed and they said, guys, let's sit down, let's rearrange this in order for us to give shareholder value and all these other things. And again, a successful deal. So for me, when you have a principle-based approach that includes characteristics of a successful structure, I don't see any reason why BE deals will fail.
But also, it comes down to good faith. And trust, and back to the point of partnership. If you really are in this together, then you're in it together. You're not just sleeping around, to use that analogy, when it comes to doing deals.
So I think it's a couple of things. One is the concept of being able to restructure these things as you go. I mean, ultimately, the beneficiaries need to understand precisely what they're in for.
We're not holding something back from you, we're ensuring you do get something out.
But there's been some pretty painful restructures inside these traditional funding structures, because there's such tension between the stakeholder requirements and desires in terms of the returns from it and the time frame over which those returns are delivered.
You were promised a return over 10 years. Now you're being told you've got to wait 15. And that's tough to absorb when you've been depending on a payout at some point. Last point.
I was saying, must give TTI credit on this with the BE commissioner, because exactly that's what she's going to do. In reviewing the deal, she's going to now say, this is how we would like the BE deal to look like, so that at least 5 years from now, we've got like a best case model in terms of how we want successful deals to look like.
Oh, look, it's a fascinating discussion. My thanks to Andile Tlhoaele, who is Principal and Senior Consultant at Inforcomm, and Morgan Jones, Corporate Finance Principal and BE Expert at Bravura. There'll be other issues to fight over, more sticks and more carrots next time on the Moneymakers. Till then, have yourselves a very good evening. Good night.